Well, even with the internet down across half the world, we are still here. Welcome back to Redacted on this Monday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, so the internet is down for like a lot of people. Many services, people are texting left and right like, oh, is this down? Is this down? Yes, almost every service that you rely on across the internet seems to be down today thanks to Amazon Web Services being down. But we are here, so hopefully everything runs smoothly today for you. We've got a very busy show for you on this Monday. Another assassination attempt plot foiled against President Trump. And now it might sound like, oh, some sort of simple coincidence about this tree blind and a sniper's nest that they just found in a tree near Palm Beach International Airport. But no, because there are too many odd pieces of this story that we're going to break down for you in today's show.
We're also going to talk about the John Bolton indictment because it is delicious. We cannot say that it is lawfare by President Trump because this started under the Biden administration. It's hilarious. I literally laughed. Clayton heard me laughing.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring you in on the joke, too. I think you're going to like it because he is a war-loving sociopath.
Exactly. Warmonger in chief he is. We're also going to talk about Charlie Kirk Google searches that took place before Charlie Kirk's assassination that just don't add up and make any sense to us. We're also going to look at the UK's collapse and why they're looking to ban democratic elections. Why? Because conservatives are winning in the UK. So what do? You just stop elections. Like this is like a card right out of
Germany.
Right out of Germany or Zelensky's playbook in Ukraine. So we get to get all of that and more on the show. So welcome in on this Monday. Great to see everyone. But first, we're going to tell you about our friends over at Shopify because did you know that our store is built on Shopify? Yes, Redacted store is built on Shopify. If you go to shopify.com/redacted, you can sign up right now for a 1-month trial period. And, here's the thing. If you have an idea where you want to turn a business dream into a reality, that's where Shopify comes in. Like if you've got a t-shirt idea, maybe you make some sort of, honeybee candles or God knows, whatever idea you have and I can come up with as an entrepreneur, Shopify can help you launch it very, very quickly. You can be up and running in no time. And when we wanted to build our Redacted store, it was a no-brainer. We built it on Shopify. So right from t-shirt printing, all of that is right there. So if you can't design a website, Shopify's got you from the get-go with beautiful, ready-to-go templates to match your brand style. What if you need a hand? You can get help with everyday tasks like enhancing product images. They all do that. Writing product descriptions. Shopify's AI tools will help you do that. So turn those dreams into money. Go to shopify.com/redacted. Sign up for a 1-month trial period today. That's a 1-month trial period starting today. Shopify.com/redacted.
I have one thing to say before we get into the news. Someone points out that we only have 15% likes and thousands of viewers. Today is, Clayton, at 15%. 15, what is that number today, Clayton?
15 is our wedding anniversary today.
Yes, today we've been married 15 years. So give us an anniversary present and push like and share on this video if you would do so, because that would be nice, right? You don't have to subscribe. You don't have, hopefully you already are, just something that helps the algorithm push us out to other people and we can get a bigger community of conspiracy knowers like us.
So thank you.
Happy anniversary, darling.
Happy anniversary to you. All right. Wish it was like on a weekend, but no, it's a work day.
It's a Monday. Like my birthday is always on the week and
All right. Well,
we got what it is. We're here with you. Gladly to be.
We are. And we got a lot of news to get to. We got a lot of guests on the show today. So let's get into it. Well, did they just try to assassinate President Trump for a third time? The timing is a little more than suspicious. So just days before the No Kings protests kicked off, the Secret Service reportedly found an elevated hunting stand in a Florida tree-lined position with a direct line of sight to where President Trump would exit Air Force One in Palm Beach County. So a perfect place to fire a rifle round. And this wasn't just some random discovery, by the way. Agents uncovered it during an advanced security preparation sweep from the Secret Service ahead of his arrival in Palm Beach on Thursday. So here is this platform. Take a look at, here's the tree, here's the sniper platform up in this tree. And you might say, okay, whatever, big deal. This could just be a coincidence. After all, it's archery, crossbow season, muzzle loading gun season right now in Palm County. And Palm County sits in Zone C. If you're a hunter, you know what this is. And you can see here the open dates for these particular seasons: crossbow season, archery season. By the way, it's far enough away that there's no way you're hitting President Trump with a bow and arrow. Okay, it's hunting season in this particular part of the country right now, going after white-tailed deer. But here's the twist. Hunting is not allowed in this area. It's illegal, in fact. Federal, state, local regulations prohibit the discharge of firearms in this spot at all in residential areas, and specifically hunting next to airports for safety reasons.
Seems also, just reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, don't shoot bullets near airplanes. That makes a lot of sense. Also, just look at the Palm Beach airport. Does this look like a good hunting area to you? Like, hey, I'm going to go out hunting, honey. Yeah, you going up in the mountains? No, I'm going next to the highway, next to the Palm Beach International Airport. Okay, here's a closer look at the location where this sniper tree stand was located. Look at this. So here's the tree stand on the left. Line of sight in this little copse of trees facing the international airport where Trump would land. By the way, we'll get into all this in a second because it's just unbelievable as I'm going through all the data on this. Like, just take a look at this map. This is, here's an Apple map so you can just see what this looks like. I mean, you're not going hunting next to the highway in a little copse of trees. Because a lot of people online are like, that tree stand was there. It's used for hunting. It's no big deal. No, it's not. It is a big deal. It's illegal. Doesn't look like a good hunting spot to me at all. Right next to the highway with almost no trees around whatsoever. But even if you thought this was a good spot, it's illegal to fire a gun from this location, and it's not allowed. The spot is located specifically within an established no discharge and no hunting FAA safety zone. So it's illegal to fire any kind of a firearm near the airport. And take a look at this, just so you see what's also very odd about this location. You can see in red is the tree location. Notice what's right there next to it. Yeah, that's a police department. A forensic service is part of the police department. And then just separate from that, just a scroll, if you go to the left here a little bit, the Army Reserve Center is right there. Okay. Then a little bit further down the road is a gun club. Then right below that is a criminal justice complex with the sheriff's department and a full gun range. Very similar to things we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania during Trump's assassination attempt there with the Butler Gun Club and HSI. HSI, of course, Homeland Security Intelligence Services, who were very hung out at the Butler Gun Club on a regular basis. And we know that they like to hang out at these same gun clubs right here next to this Palm Beach International Airport. I'm just saying coincidence, but it's all very odd.
It's basically Walden Pond, very recluse, where you can go and do some relaxing hunting.
Like, hey, honey, this year for vacation, next year we're going to go to a little copse of trees right next to the highway, right next to the airport.
Yes.
It's so quiet and beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I might do a little hunting while I'm there.
Okay.
Up in the tree line.
It's like my second favorite way to camp. My favorite way is any other way. Any other place is better than that. But my
bonus
second
if there's a 7-Eleven right next to it.
Yeah, or a Walmart parking lot, maybe. Exactly. Even more relaxing. Also, I find it interesting that someone searched for Palm Beach airport forests over 100 times prior to the Secret Service finding a sniper blind in a Palm Beach airport forest. That's interesting, isn't it? Why would anyone, and by the way, I went back years to look at search results for this as I was looking for this. Why would anyone in the world search for Palm Beach airport forests?
The dumbest thing I ever heard.
Like, and this happens right before the Secret Service conveniently find this thing? Okay. Just days before it would be discovered by Secret Service. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino was on his favorite network, Fox News Today, to update everyone about this. Well, listen.
But we saw this disturbing thing, a hunting stand right in the area of Palm Beach Airport, which would have had a clear shot at Air Force One. We can see it. What could you tell us about this, Dan?
Yeah, I was on the phone about this all day yesterday. It's interesting. When I got back from the mall, most of my you don't get the days off here. It's not what you sign up for. So, it's unfortunate sometimes we got to take care of these things. We wish they wouldn't happen. But here's what happens with this. Let me walk the American public through how this works. The FBI is not responsible, obviously, for the security plan of the president. That's the purview of the Secret Service. However, if the Secret Service finds something that they believe could be criminal, I want to emphasize it could be, we take over. We have what's called an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with the Secret Service, where we will investigate after that. I was on the phone yesterday back and forth with the D2, the deputy director over at the Secret Service, Matt Quinn, great guy. They were very concerned. Their security sweep discovered this hunting stand. The director Kash Patel was directly involved right away. I'm on the email chain with him. He ordered an immediate response. I believe we had our plane flown down there. This hunting stand was appropriately dismantled, being flown to our lab. I believe it's there right now. And all of the forensic tools we have, from digital tools to biometric tools, they are all going to be applied to try to find out who put this up there and why.
Mr. Deputy Director.
All right. So
the same people who found no silverware in the Butler alleged shooter apartment.
Yeah.
That's the kind of answers we will expect.
Well, I mean, again, it's ridiculous. And people are like in the chat are like, well, there's nothing new here. This was just a simple hunting tree stand. Yeah. In an area where you're not allowed to hunt. Okay, fine. And as the deputy director just confirmed, it was, in fact, a hunting stand. It wasn't a tree house. Like, kids weren't there. By the way, it was literally next to an industrial zone. There's no houses anywhere near this particular spot. So it's not like some kids just built a tree house behind the sheriff's station with a direct line of sight to where Air Force One lands. But we'll get more details on this. I'm sure it's totally nothing to see here.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you how the World Health Organization is spying on you. They told us so. This is what they're looking for, the next pandemic, they say. But okay, this is a new tracking software called Epidemic Intelligent from Open Source 2.0. We're going to call it EIOS or iOS. They say that they need it for pandemic preparedness, but it will automatically scan and analyze social media across 110 WHO member states, which most likely is one of yours, especially if you're in a Western nation. Now, this is a surveillance power. Let's be clear that the WHO tried to take when they launched their pandemic treaty, but recall that pandemic treaty was severely handicapped because most of us had such a fit that it would be binding, that it would take away sovereignty of all 110 member states. So they had to take it down a notch. But now, instead of a big overarching pandemic treaty, they're just giving themselves these powers spoonful by spoonful. So let's take a look at what this is. They say that they're looking for illnesses, but they are also tracking, take a look, ongoing events, whether they are linked to conflict, climate change, or new and re-emerging pathogens. Now, the only thing that I think the WHO should be worried about there is pathogens. The other stuff, climate change, conflict, that has nothing to do with world health. Why are they doing this? This is narrative surveillance wrapped in the language of global health security. Also, we might recall that since 2020, the WHO has been warning about infodemics, which they describe as, look, an overabundance of information, even accurate information, that will make it difficult to make you adopt behaviors. So notice they're saying that an infodemic can even have true information, but it's so much that can't make you do stuff. Well, like what? You might ask. Well, maybe talking about how maintaining high vitamin D levels is essential to not getting sick, but they don't want you to talk about that. They want you to take medicine, pharmaceuticals. Maybe you might talk about how masks don't stop the spread of certain viruses, but they want to instate mask mandates. To them, that's an infodemic. You're getting true information. They can't make you do something. What about these herd immunity? You want to talk about that? They don't want you to. That's an infodemic because they can't make you do things. It's information that would make it so you don't do what they tell you. The idea of infodemics makes me want to scream and shout and punch walls. So all of this happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. So is it possible that they are using AI surveillance? I think I forgot to say that this is all AI based. They are using global AI surveillance to censor and define the next infodemic. Now, notice you might want to say, can they do this to us? Especially because President Trump withdrew from the WHO. They can do this. They're saying, oh, it's free of charge to member states. What that means is we're not going to charge you for it. We're just going to go ahead and do it. And then guess what? You can share this data. So let's say you are Japan. You can get data from France free of charge using their AI scanning tool about all the French people. You can just do that. I mean, no one is going to stop them here. They say they're already doing it. They're not really supposed to, but they did expand their rights to do this, and they make a broad interpretation of those rights under the international health regulations that they launched last year, where they edited their powers. So since their pandemic treaty ideas collapsed, you can bet that they will use their power that they did not get to use a backdoor to survey you under the auspices of health security. So it's happening. There's no let's debate it or let's push back or whatever. They're doing it. They're using AI to survey you.
So that means as a free service, I'm going to offer you guys, I'm going to make sure all of your leftovers get eaten. So I'm just going to come by every day and just eat the leftovers out of your fridge. You don't really have a say in it because it's free. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like it.
Thank you.
It's totally fine because I don't usually eat a lot of the leftovers. And then,
I do.
And then she yells at me about it. So you're welcome anytime. President Trump just dropped the hammer on Zelensky, telling the Ukrainian dictator, hey, you better accept Putin's terms here or you're going to be destroyed by Russia. We are sick and tired of this. According to the Financial Times, the U.S. and Ukrainian presidents descended into basically a shouting match. And I've heard from separate sources that this got really heated inside the White House. Trump was basically saying, Trump was cursing the whole time, yelling at him. For people who were in the room, Trump was telling Zelensky, give up control of territory in Ukraine's eastern Donbass region. That area has been attacked for the past 10 years by the Ukrainian neo-Nazis, killing innocent civilians who live in that area. It's been a genocide to anyone who's been paying attention. Tens of thousands of civilians have been killed. They then voted overwhelmingly to become part of the Russian Federation. As you well know, over 90% voted to be in favor of joining Russia. So this is no longer Ukraine, despite what Zelensky thinks about it. This is Russia, and Trump seemed to be driving home this point. At one point, Zelensky put down a map to show the battle lines, and Trump just flipped out. It's I don't want to see your maps anymore. This is over. I don't care where your front is. You want to show us where your front is? No. You have one guy guarding 6 kilometers. It's done. It's over. If you don't accept these terms right now, Putin's going to concede some areas in Kherson and Zaporizhia. Take it, or you're going to be destroyed. So this was a pretty big moment. Now, Viktor Orban, of course, ready to mediate this meeting, which would be huge. I mean, a member of NATO and the EU. Viktor Orban in Hungary and Budapest going to mediate this agreement. Zelensky says he's going to do it now because of the pressure after this meeting. He also asked for some Tomahawk missiles, and President Trump said, go pound sand. We're not sending you any Tomahawks. We don't even have them. So this is a big moment. We're going to see how this all plays out in the coming days with Viktor Orban mediating this. But I hope he gets the message this time.
Well, the CDC says that last year's flu season was very high in severity, the worst on record since 2017. And so you better get a flu vaccine, they say. This is a very scary report just put out. They also say that the mortality rate was the highest since 2015, but only in its peak. So that's a 2.8% death rate, they say, in any given week. So that's the highest week of mortality, not the highest overall mortality, but they don't want you to make that distinction. They also say that children had a very high death rate, especially children who didn't take the flu shot. So see here, they said most of the children that died had underlying conditions, but most of them over 6 months old, 90% of them were not vaccinated. That is purposely misleading. It suggests those children may have survived had they been vaccinated for the flu, but that's impossible to prove, especially because the vaccine did not match the most popular strains from last year's flu season. How do we know that? Because the report shows us that the strains that made so many people sick were not in the 2024-2025 flu vaccine. Here is the formulation they're giving us. You can see on the left is the one that they're putting out this year. And then the one on the right is what was out last year. Notice the word like there. It was not H1N1. It was H1N1 like. Well, that's a weird word in what is in your vaccine. It's like this strain of the flu. That could mean anything. But usually that means some kind of thing that's close to the actual virus, a lab-made version of what they think will circulate.
Ebola, it's like the flu.
It's like it. Now, I don't think we can conclude that this is gain of function because we simply don't know how like it is, what they did to it. They don't tell us how they manipulated something to be like H1N1. It's possible. We just don't know. What we do know is that the strains that actually caused people to get sick last year were not addressed by the flu vaccine because the flu vaccine was given. The flu was bad last year. Those are the two data points. So how are they trying to sell us the flu vaccine by saying this vaccine didn't work, but take the next one? The data shows a weak match. But the agency is still promoting the vaccine through fear-mongering statistics about dying children. You see what they're doing here. And how do we know that the 2025-2026 flu vaccine will work any better at preventing this year's coming strains? We don't. In fact, we can be fairly certain they won't. Because again, if you look at this formulation, it's like things, H3N2, which was big last year, H3N2 like virus. Okay. And all of this was chosen in March of this year. So whatever was popular in March will presumably not be popular once our flu season hits here in the Northern Hemisphere. Also worth noting, was it clinically trialed? Lol, it was not. The flu vaccine is never clinically trialed. So if you take it, number one, you know you're taking something that was addressed to old strains. And number two, you're the clinical trial. We have more news to get to. We're going to talk about this delicious John Bolton indictment that reads like a funny, what do you call a spy novel that's a comedy? It's like the Dumb Spy, almost like, I don't know. You think about that, and I will tell our friends
like
about
Get Smart,
like Get Smart, or like Police Squad.
Yes, Police Academy, like that. That's how great this is. So clearly, we brought in Lionel from the Lionel Nation YouTube channel because he's the only one who can see the humor of this in the best way. Okay, but first we want to tell you about our friends over at Masa Chips, because did you know that all chips and fries used to be cooked in tallow until the 90s when big corporations switched to cheap processed seed oils? And today, seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories. Recent studies have linked them to metabolic health issues and inflammation in the body. That's why Masa Chips decided to do something about it, or masa. I think it's pronounced like that. Masa means like a dough, like tortilla dough specifically. They are delicious. They are hearty. They hold up to whatever dip you put out, and they are, in fact, better for you. They don't only avoid bad stuff, they taste incredible too. You know how sometimes you switch for like the healthier thing and your kids are like, what is this? That did not happen in our house. We put these out for a 15-year-old boy birthday party, and basically the lawnmower of boys swept them right up. So they are popular in our house. Right now, you can get 25% off your first order by using the code Redacted News. Go to masachips.com/redacted news. One more time, that's masachips.com/redacted news. And if you don't like ordering online, that's fine. They are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. So stop by and pick up a bag before they are gone. All right, how you doing?
I'm good.
Okay.
Someone's like, why did you guys quote the Financial Times in the chat? I was just texting back in the chat room here because they're the ones that quoted specifically people in the room. I also said separate sources from the White House confirmed the yelling and screaming that was happening at the White House with Zelensky. So, so multiple sources, but they had a direct quote, and I just wanted to quote what they had to say. So, yes. You know, sometimes they get it right.
Yeah. And
sometimes they get it right.
if you don't like that screenshot, next time we'll write it on a Post-it.
Yeah.
Put it up for you.
All right.
Maybe you like that better. Well, former National Security Advisor John Bolton was indicted for handling classified information in his own personal way. It's hilarious. Now, CNN and the media who love him are calling this lawfare. They are literally defending John Bolton, the man who pushed the Iraq War, who agitated bombing in Iran, who has wanted that his whole life, basically, cheered the destruction of Libya, justified spying on Americans, backed the coup in Venezuela and Syria, spent a lifetime volunteering other people's children for bloody battlefields. He has never seen a conflict that he didn't want to send U.S. blood into. He has premier status for his reservation in hell. I'm very comfortable saying that. But CNN loves him because he used to work for Trump and he will take a hit at Trump anytime. So he makes for good TV for them. So what does the indictment allege that he did? He created a group chat with what we think is his wife and daughter and took copious notes about his time in the Trump administration and sent secret information on the chain to write this book that he was planning, which he did publish in 2020. Now, is this President Trump getting back at him? Well, it'd be pretty hard to prove that since the prosecution began under the Biden administration. Even in the New York Times says what's so unusual about this is that it's very usual. It followed the normal chain of indictment, witnesses, investigation, all of that. Was there criminal intent? Well, it would be hard to prove that he didn't know any better, given that he likes to go on TV and say that people who mishandle classified documents should be murdered. He said Edward Snowden should get the death penalty. Julian Assange, President Trump. It would be hard to argue that given he says this on TV all the time, he didn't know it was wrong. But then there is this gold from the indictment where he's sending his wife and daughter, presumably, this 24-page document. He calls it a diary. And then he says, none of which we'll talk about. And the individual says, that's right. Shh. So stupid. I could not stop laughing about that. And he says, more come over cloak and dagger. Like he's basically Pink Panther.
He loves himself. He really loves himself.
He shared information, it said there, at the top secret SCI level. So clearly he knows. Joining us to discuss is Lionel from the Lionel Nation YouTube channel, who says, yeah, he's in deep doo-doo. This is maybe one of the stronger ones to come out of the Justice Department in a while. So Lionel.
Well, we should also point out that Lionel is a constitutional attorney.
Yes.
Prosecutor who knows this stuff inside and out. We'll just throw that in there.
And I'm always the Grim Reaper, great name, whenever it comes to giving you bad news as to another failed attempt at getting these people. The Comey indictment is going to go bye-bye. The Tish James one is, but this one, dead meat. Dead meat. Dead meat.
Why?
And here's the beautiful
Why?
part about it. Okay, first of all, Natalie, lawfare, what does that mean? You might as well say, you're being mean. Lawfare means nothing. Who cares? If you're driving 80 miles an hour in the school zone, and I'm thinking, is that Natalie? Yeah, get her. Boo. Did you stop me? Yes. Because it's me? Yes. And you were going 80 miles an hour. Who cares why I stopped you? What difference does it make? Does it make any sense? That's civilian talk. Here's why this is different. And this is the facts are beautiful. In 17 months, this guy worked for Trump, and he turned over this book like that, and they said, wow, this is pretty good. Wow, look at these notes, and gee, he's smart. Well, as you said, as he's going through top secret meetings and stuff he should not be telling anybody about, he writes notes down, which are fine. He then takes them, transcribes them to a Word doc. He has about 1,000 pages of this, sends it to daughter and mom for them to review via AOL or something. By the way, a lot of people use AOL. Don't kid yourself. They're also using fax machines. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not as... in fact, Hollywood scripts right now are being sent more and more with fax. Anyway, so he sends this. Now, they're put together. They then review this. They turn the proposed book over to the DOJ. The DOJ says, we don't like this in your book. Okay, fine. He's claiming First Amendment. He said, you cleared my book. You went through it. This is selective prosecution, malicious prosecution, whatever it is. He's lawfare. All that doesn't mean anything. What does lawfare mean? It doesn't mean anything. So anyway, here's the issue. This is one of the best indictments ever. Whoever wrote this one knows what they're doing, as opposed to those Eastern District cut and paste on a Selectric. I mean, those were terrible. This was fantastic. One of the allegations was, I forget, page 53 or so, they said, none of the allegations, nothing that we are saying today, none of the 18 counts has anything to do with the book. There you go. So what they're doing is this. It's not the book, John. It's not the fact that you don't get a clearance on top secret information. They don't clear top secret information. That's not it. You basically reduced to writing and revealed over non-secure transmission to non-approved civilians information that was top secret or sensitive. That is it. End of discussion. That's it. Now, for a lot of people looking for espionage, this isn't espionage. These names, treason, sedition, that's not it. He's not the Rosenbergs. He's not Kim Philby. This isn't the Cambridge Five. No, it's very simple. Remember John Deutsch, 1996, head of the CIA? He took a laptop home with him. They were going to hang him. You don't do this. This is like, and Iran, forgot to mention, they hacked him. He was being hacked, not by some Nigerian banker, but some Iranian. So this goes to show you, John, this is what happened. So we don't know what happened, where this went. So to recap this, very, very simple. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you expect anything exciting, no. Number one, he wrote these things down, which is fine. Number two, he reduced them to writing on a Word doc. That's okay on a secured phone. You can do that. But he sent it to civilians. I don't care if it's your daughter, your publisher, your friend, your neighbor. I don't care if it was for personal gain, if it was to write a book. It doesn't matter. This is very black and white, very cold, very specific. This is the stuff as a prosecutor I love. It's like I said, speeding. Were you going over the speed limit? That's it. Don't care why. Unless there's an emergency, which never happens. Just very cut and dry. He's toast. Now, is he going to go to prison? No. No. Now, is this selective prosecution? No. Now, other people are saying maybe he shouldn't have been charged. John Deutsch was in charge. Hillary Clinton was in charge. Maybe Comey. We can argue this all day long. Who should be? Remember Sandy? Who was it? Sandy Berger? Who's the guy who stuffed the documents down his pants? And it's, excuse me, this is all prosecutorial discretion. As a prosecutor, people forget this. When you go into a courtroom, you got to feel really good about this case. And if you think, my heart's not in this, okay, fine. It's up to you. Excuse me. There is no mandatory basis that you must charge people with things. You believe me, you don't have to do that. So let me just say, you can talk about he's a merchant of evil and all that. Yeah. And by the way, Natalie, he's nothing. The people who make him look like a Girl Scout are people in higher level intel. You don't even know their names. Sure. They are so ghoulish, so psychopathic. He's a foot soldier. Remember, anybody whose name you're given, they're not in charge. When you hear Soros, he's not in charge. So they love to put these people out there. And he loves being, the Wilford Brimley, I am the walrus kind of a thing. He's mysterious. By the way, he's a warmonger and everybody loves him. I mean, every administration loves him because he trashes everybody. He is by the way, in the intel community, what people will say is he is such a rat. Even the intel people hate him because they love quiet and they love understanding that it's the mission. You don't ever give up the commander. You don't give up somebody. You're going to betray the mission. He is so horrible in terms of this persnickety, priggish, weird old. He's like a Karen. You know what I mean? He really. But that notwithstanding, this is cut and dry, and they are going crazy. All of the usual suspects, the people who love him, they're saying, John, we can't help you on this one. Comey, yes. Tish James, maybe. That case is harder than you think because there's Fannie Mae rules and mortgage fraud is not really what you think it is. Okay, fine. This is simple. And let me tell you something. This is Trump's finest hour. I don't know what Pam Bondi's doing. I don't know if Todd Blanchard's in charge. I don't know who they are. But whoever drafted this in Maryland, they know what they're doing.
Okay, let's pretend you're his defense attorney then. You plead. What will happen to him? Big fine, big slap on the wrist?
Mercy.
What?
Mercy, probation, some kind of whatever it is. You're going to bring in how he did so much for his country. I'll do the old kind of the Sicilian flu. He's kind of up there. He's not as sharp. Doesn't have his fastball anymore. That kind of stuff. He's whatever. They're not going to put him in prison. No, absolutely not. But the point is he'll lose any and all. To be dethroned, to be defanged from your position. Think about this. All you've been is intel behind the lines, and people, like when I'm sure when he shows up to the cafeteria at Langley, they say, John, this is like so sophomoric. What are you doing? And putting his wife and his, when you're doing this, you're saying, hey, listen, guys, this thing that you're reading on guess who's going to come to our house and take your stuff, your laptop? I'm putting you in jeopardy. And by the way, when the feds take it, you don't get it back. Or if you get it back, it's wiped out. And your computer is your life. So this idiot, he could have done it differently. He could have hired somebody within the world. And let me just say something very, very quickly. There's an arrogance here. You want to talk about something, there's this arrogance. There's this idea that you can't touch me. We don't need no stinking badges. I'm John Bolton. I'm John freaking Bolton. You don't understand.
I got a bestseller novel coming out.
Yeah. Who was it? Leona Helmsley said, taxes are for poor little people. You don't know who I am. I'm too big for this. Trump got him. And let me tell you something. It is about time, because so far, can you name the big name politicians? Can you name anybody? Comey, that's a disaster. Tish James, are you really? Okay, well, that'll do, I guess.
No.
A couple of judges here and there.
Epstein files?
Nothing.
What is that? And Epstein, by the way, is getting worse because it's with this Prince Andrew. Don't get me started with that. Oh, and one more thing real quick. I know this has nothing to do with this. Guess who is furious with Trump? Diddy. I know you don't care about this. Diddy said, George Santos gets a pardon, not me. Identity theft? They got me on this archaic Mann Act. Do you know how many people I can bring down? And you, George Santos? What? Diddy is furious. So when people get furious and they feel betrayed and they feel like I've been forgotten, watch what happens with that. Oh, so let me tell you something. Don't let this no kings, no brain stuff fool you. That was performative nonsense. That was a kabuki dance going nowhere, my friend. Let me tell you that Trump is such a genius. I don't know if he's a savant. I don't know if he knows what he's doing. He said something. One day he brings people in. Zelensky, like you mentioned before, says, by the way, Zell, it's over. Have a nice day. Why am I here? Get out of here. Next, he's just... And now let's go out in the patio and look how we destroyed the Rose Garden to make a food court like a mall. He's like, what are you? And have you seen what he's done to the Oval Office? It looks like a Cracker Barrel gift shop. What is this? Yeah. I love this guy. But let me tell you something. Trump doesn't forget. He doesn't forget. He can wait. He's like a Cape Buffalo. They have a grudge, and I love it. And I want to get
right.
And also Hillary. Remember, they walked on her. They forgot it. Biden. What about all those files? Are they still in his garage? We don't know whatever happened to that. University of Pennsylvania, the China thing. So maybe this will rekindle, reinvigorate, and resuscitate an interest in perhaps maybe breathing life into those cases. One can dream, my friends. One can dream.
Or this idea that there's equal justice under the law. And if you do this classified information bit, you're going to get prosecuted no matter. I know. This is utopia.
Such a Pollyanna. Clayton, how do you deal with this? It's like, what you think he'd be battle-hardened and nothing like Clayton and I?
I know. 15 years of this he's been dealing with. 15 years. Yeah.
15 of the greatest years of my life.
We had an argument this morning about serving platters. Like, I'll serve him
Remember,
something
let me tell you something.
And he'll
Remember
switch
this one thing. Final word here. Final word. The secret to a happy marriage is still the secret. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's true.
It is. If someone serves you your meatballs in a bowl, you don't put it in a plate. You just leave it.
You poor
eat
man.
It that way.
You poor man.
And then This was a discussion we had this morning.
Thanks for telling tales of our.
Yeah.
All right.
I can see this on
Lionel.
ID. Some victim's ID. Wives gone mad. It started
Exactly.
with his name, Clayton
Exactly.
Morris. He was found stabbed 50 times. His wife said, I don't know. Things happen.
Yeah.
He slipped in a bar of soap. Okay.
Well, I will ask you, dear audience, why not eat your scrambled eggs in a bowl? What's so wrong with that? Just let me know what you think in the chat.
Savage.
All right, these are marital squabbles. Thank you, Lionel. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
All right. I don't want to eat. Who wants to eat scrambled eggs in a bowl? It's just a weird. It's a totally weird.
I'm going to refer to the chat. Who is okay with eating scrambled eggs in a bowl?
I
It's
eat
a
my
weird
scrambled eggs in
thing.
a bowl every
You do?
time.
Do you?
I do. I will send you a picture right now.
I just don't like it. It seems like it should be a soup with like a ladle. I don't want that. All right, we got more news to get to. We got a lot of news to get to here. James Lee is going to be joining us here to talk about these bizarre Google searches that showed an interest in certain terms before the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And where do they originate from? What city was this origination? We're going to go through all of those, which are very interesting, in just a moment here on the show. And we're also going to look at the collapse of the UK, which is happening in real time. Canceling elections, yeah. If it turns out if you don't like the way people are going to vote, you just cancel elections. That's what's about to happen in the UK. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, you know the saying, look good, feel good. The problem is most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. Sure, they look sharp, but they're stiff, they're hot, they're high maintenance, which makes it hard to actually feel comfortable. That's why I'm such a fan of Mizzen & Main. And I'm telling you, the dress shirts are the most comfortable dress shirts I've ever worn. They're so lightweight and comfortable. They're incredible. And by the way, you don't even have to worry about ironing them. You pull them right out of the dryer and they're totally wrinkle free. They make classic menswear with performance fabric, so it's effortless to look sharp, feel great. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and since then they've perfected it with all sorts of modern fabrics. Now they look refined, yet they're stretchy, so they don't feel too tight on you. They're lightweight, they're moisture wicking, wrinkle resistant, completely machine washable, no ironing or dry cleaning. Right now, Mizzen & Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase. Perfect for the holidays. If you're thinking about getting your man a nice dress shirt for the holidays, or loved ones for the holidays, check out their website and see what you can get 20% off your first purchase if you use that promo code Redacted20. Just go to mizzenandmain.com. Use the promo code Redacted20 to get 20% off. Again, that's MIZZEN and Main.com. Promo code Redacted20 for 20% off. And by the way, if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in some selected states. So look them up and check them out. All right.
A lot of people say they like their eggs on a plate, that they won't do
I'm the same
scrambled
way.
eggs in a bowl. A lot of people are fine with it. I'd say it's split. It's 50-50. I didn't know
I
that
just want to eat them
people
with a
would.
spoon like an animal. I want to eat eggs with a fork and put it on some
It's
toast.
just
And
this. I'll
just
serve him
weird.
something and he's like, and then he'll switch it. And I'm like, oh, I worked hard on that. I wanted it to be served like this. So anyhow, these are the marital quabbles that you get after 15 years. I finally told him how I feel about this. We're lucky to make it this far.
Exactly.
We really are. This big egg divide.
Plates over bowls. All right.
Yeah, this is a cracked situation.
Stop it.
Stupid. Okay. Our next guest says that Google search terms showed an interest in many terms related to Charlie Kirk's assassination before the actual September 10th assassination. James Lee from the 5149 show on YouTube is reporting that Google Trends showed the following terms had been trending before Kirk was assassinated in two different places, Washington, D.C., and also in a foreign nation, you may have heard of them, called Israel. Here's a list of some of the things that he and others have found were trending prior to September 10th. Tyler James Robinson, the airplane, the Losi Center, which is the rooftop where the shooter allegedly was, the weapon, the hospital where he was taken, these doctors, the medical examiner. Now, a lot of this came originally from the Real Baron podcast, and then our next guest has furthered this by searching into Google Trends for himself. So thank you so much, James, for joining us for the first time on Redacted.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Pleasure. I think you did a really good job with this. So can you explain to us the idea that these search terms peaked in different regions before the assassination in critical time periods?
Well, I asked Google this question. I said, hey, what does this mean, in terms of these search terms, right? And I pulled up, I asked Google, okay, can you analyze some of these results? What do they mean? And they say, okay, they gave me two options. One of them being that, hey, you see all these search terms like you just showed your audience, the Tyler Robinson, Losi, Center, Mauser 98, et cetera, et cetera. So they said the strongest interpretation of this is some kind of non-organic activity likely originating from a small number of users. And it said that it was potentially for reconnaissance or verification, a small number, a small group of people or a single individual, potentially someone involved or aware of the planning of the assassination, was using Google to conduct online reconnaissance or verification. And then the second option that they gave me, very interesting, they said it was this is highly unlikely. They call this a remote interpretation, extraordinary coincidence, in that somebody in Israel or relative close contact was somehow searching up the hospital, the head medical examiner, all of these surgeons, just by happenstance. So I asked Google that question, and those are the two options that it gave me. One of them being, the more logical answer, the other being highly likely, they say.
But the dates in July. Right.
Well, there's two different clusters. Very interesting. So what I found from the DC dates, they were very close to the assassination 1 or 2 days before. So on like September 9th, September 10th, that's when they were clustered. Now, the searches for the Utah hospital medical examiner, as well as some of the surgeons that work at the hospital there, the Timpanogos Regional Hospital, those are centered around dates that are closer to the end of July, mid to late July. And one thing very interesting about that people were talking online, and this is veering into sort of the conspiracy space, is that if you remember the infamous, or now infamous, group text message from Charlie Kirk and a number of different donors, they were discussing after the TPUSA event in mid-July, that I think it was in Tampa, Florida, they were very unhappy with the platforming of Tucker Carlson, as well as the debate between Dave Smith and Josh Hammer. So that's when it first was rumbling. And now that points to some kind of, were those things related, right? Because we saw after the assassination, Israel was very, very quick to say, nope, this wasn't us. Of course, why would we do something like this? Charlie's our greatest ally, and he was a lover of Israel. Why would he do this? And then now we know for a fact, that's been confirmed by Candace Owens, as well as other people's reporting, that no, there were indeed some strife going on behind the scenes. So then now that leads to, I think a very credible motive. And with these Google searches, now we're starting to see, okay, is there potentially, maybe not a smoking gun quite yet, but at least something that we need to investigate further, right? Because a lot of things, or a lot of responses that I got from people, because I was very early, on, I was like, hey, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look like a lone gunman situation. It looks sort of like a conspiracy. You had that guy, George Zinn, in the audience saying it was me, shoot me. Very, very bizarre. And you had a very quick disinformation campaign that started right after the event. So that does not look like just a lone gunman type of situation. And, a lot of people were like, how could you say you have no evidence? Well, now we're starting to see some evidence creep in. And one thing, this is kind of a cheeky joke, but the Mossad, if they were involved in this kind of thing, the Mossad is supposedly one of the greatest spy organizations in the world. So you got to give them a little bit of credit in that, they would hopefully do a good job and not leave too many trails behind. If we online were able to sleuth this out within a couple of days, I would feel like they weren't doing a good job. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with this. Like, this is certainly enough that it should warrant investigation, more conversation. And then, you just saw Kash Patel, I think it was yesterday, go on and say, well, any kind of discussion online from people on social media, that is going to be very harmful for Charlie's family, and we must shut down this conversation. And I think that's kind of a red flag for me, is that, saying that investigating further is somehow not good. That sounds kind of like a cover-up or a psyop. That's kind of how
someone in our chat room just said, yeah, when people are trying to tell you to look the other way or just to play it off as like a coincidence, then you should run away from those people. And I think there's two camps been emerging from this immediately. The yay, we're going to buy everything the Fed is telling us, the FBI is telling us that this was the guy, nothing to see here. And then there's a lot of us who are saying, wait a second, there's too many inconsistencies here. Why would there be these clusters in D.C. and Israel searching for things like the Losi Center? I mean, who cares in Israel about the Losi Center? I'd never even heard of it until everything that unfolded. I mean, why would people specifically being searching out for these the Mauser 98, the alleged weapon, ahead of time? I mean, I know this is jumping into the area of
supposedly
speculation,
a very archaic, rare, rifle that's untraceable somehow. And it was very interesting. If you guys have that the screenshot, but there was no interest in it. All of a sudden, it spikes up, and I just thought, man, that's got to be more than just a coincidence, because nobody's really talking about this gun, right? It has no interest in Mauser 98. Boom, all of a sudden it spikes up, which is
this is the
very,
one we're
very
showing
peculiar,
for Tyler James Robinson. But again, it's the similar patterns.
Can I ask you though? So when we look at this forensically, like it's one thing to speculate and say, why were these people doing this? It's like, newspapers printing or reporters reporting that Building 7 had collapsed before it had collapsed. Like, it's all very interesting, right? Like, why would you mention Building 7 had collapsed and it hadn't collapsed yet? Oh, okay. Can we forensically identify who these individuals are through IP addresses or otherwise who are actually doing these searches? Or does our sort of journey just end with this?
Well, so I didn't research after this looking into, okay, how does the Google Trend thing work? And apparently what it does is it takes random samples from certain geographic regions that you're filtering for. So based on what they're publicly saying, it scrambles the data. So there's no way to identify a unique IP address or multiple IP addresses that are doing this search. I don't know what they have behind the scenes.
Could Google unscramble it? I mean, after all, Google started with a grant from the CIA, right?
That's what I'm implying there. I don't know if they have a backdoor. They likely do have a backdoor for the government. I think they're more or less required to do so. So I think there's definitely more investigation that can be done. And what's something that's interesting too, because you mentioned Baron Coleman, he was one of the first to report this. So kudos to the decentralized independent journalism world. That's the kind of stuff that we are that's such a good sign for the world of journalism to have people come on and bring this theory to the public, have other people scrutinize it. And one thing that I was doing over the course of maybe 2 or 3 days, I noticed that these searches were changing over time. And then the main searches, like some of them are still there, some of them you could still find right now, but the big names, like if you search Tyler Jane Robinson, do that exact same filtering. I just did this yesterday again. And now it's not even a flat line. They just say this search term is not available. It's not there anymore.
Right. That's the other big piece of the story. Now they're just wiping it. So all of the research that you did, like good thing you got screenshots, because now you can't do it anymore. They're not letting you do this research. Google.
Right. It's really bizarre. It's not saying it's not like zeroing it out. It's just saying this search term is unavailable.
Unavailable? Okay. I mean, clearly we all searched it collectively on September, 11th or 12th, when he was allegedly turned himself in. So now we can't even see that because they can't manipulate that data. That's outrageous. I mean, and I guess, you would think that like these bad actors who may have been involved, the way you put it in your video is that it's possible that this story was written months before it happened. And so the authors of the story, the architects, were not even using some kind of VPN or spyware. I mean, you would think they'd be a little bit smarter than that.
I would think that. I don't know if it's just some kind of trace where maybe they were doing, maybe they were using VPNs, but I don't know if anybody would have thought that this would have been a potential lead after the fact, right? They maybe thought, I think right now, a lot of what I'm saying is they're kind of playing catch up in how decentralized journalism works, where everybody's sleuthing out things, finding different avenues to investigate. And because it used to be, I mean, if you look back in time, this was just, it would have been case closed. It would have been, okay, Tyler Robinson's your guy. We have the murder weapon and now we have him apprehended. So let's move on to another story. I don't think it's 1963 anymore. It's 2025. So I think they're playing a little bit of catch up here.
Right.
Yeah. People like
and
you
there's
do incredible
there's so
work.
many similarities here. If you look at the things that happened, right? A lot of people are familiar with the JFK assassination, but I did a video digging into some of the other high-profile assassinations in history, including RFK, as well as the MLK assassination. And there's just so many parallels to this story of, say, evidence getting destroyed, right? Right now, you see UVA being basically completely reconstructed. That whole site is now totally different. I don't know why. Some people are saying maybe because they're afraid that somebody's going to find the bullet. They still haven't released any kind of ballistics matching or anything like that. And in 1968, was it for MLK, there was eyewitness saying that, hey, they saw some person in the bushes across the street that was in a different location than the actual shooter, James Earl Ray, who they call, the FBI head at the time, J. Hoover, said that he was a very hateful person. That's why he did this. And we got him. And then the next day, the Memphis Public Works went and cut down that bush. So that's a very, very similar parallel to this situation where you're seeing crime scenes being basically reconstructed. And also in that particular case, there was no ballistics match that ever occurred. They weren't able to match the bullet to the gun. And in this situation, I don't think they've been able to do that. I think you've had some ballistics experts on your show to talk about how, it's basically impossible for a 30-06 to cause such little damage. I mean, it was a very traumatic and catastrophic hit, of course, but, a lot of people are saying his head should have been blown off. So how do you explain that?
Yeah, don't ask questions, though, James. They've given us the official story, so no more questions to be asked. Your work is done here. Right. James, great to see you. Yeah. Great work on this. Encourage people to check out. We'll link it up and make sure people can check out all of your work on this. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Love to have you back on the show.
Hey, Clayton, Natalie, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate you guys.
You bet. Thank you, James. Great to have you. Wow, he was great. Right. Great to have him on.
I mean, these are burning questions, you guys. It's crazy. I'm so grateful for independent journalists who found it. So let's keep going. Coming
up, we're going to talk about the UK and its imminent collapse. England elections may be postponed for another year. Because why? Well, because they're fearful of victories for conservatives. Because people in the UK have had an absolute enough. They are finished. This country is sliding towards total disaster. Wide open borders, a national identity that has been completely wiped away. Our next guest has gone viral for calling out the diversity problem that, it's diversity is our strength. No, it's not. And Will Kingston is going to join us here in moments. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends over at American Financing, because what if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? That's right. Imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket and finally getting a little breathing room ahead of the holidays. Well, it is possible if you call our friends at American Financing. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses, groceries, gas, bills piling up, you're not alone. Most Americans are putting these things on credit cards. And of course, they're insane interest rates. So you're digging yourself further and further into the red. Well, American Financing can show you how to use your home equity to pay off that debt with rates in the low 5s. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners like you restructure their loans and save every month without upfront fees. The average customer saves $800 a month. That's like getting a $10,000 raise without having to change jobs. So call now before it's too late. Go to AmericanFinancing.net/redacted. I said that stupidly, so let me say it better. AmericanFinancing.net/redacted, or you can call them 866-890-8434, or go to AmericanFinancing.net/redacted. This is, again, a leveraging tool that wealthy people know, so set aside some time to learn it. Let them teach you. They are NMLS number 182334. You can find that at nmlsconsumeraccess.org. And again, APR rates in the 5s or start at 6.196 for well-qualified buyers. So call them again or visit AmericanFinancing.net/redacted.
Well, the UK is really concerned about the Reform Party. That's right. And we'll get to that part of the story in a second. But over the past few months, we've been tracking England's inevitable collapse, from wide open borders to London's hedonism. I mean, we took our kids there recently. You walk around stores, it's just like all like gay sex stuff in stores, like bookstores right in the front. And our daughters are like, what is that? We're like, what? This is a city in like a sign of collapse. this type of behavior, to censorship arrests over social media posts now. Now, England may cancel elections because conservatives appear likely to win. The Reform Party is well out in front. Nigel Farage's Reform Party. So cancel the elections if you don't like how people are likely to vote. Cancel them. English officials may postpone at least 7 county elections over fears that the Nigel Farage-aligned conservatives could win. This would be like Joe Biden looking at election data that showing that Trump would win, so he just cancels the election. Will Kingston is the host of Fire at Will. He recently went viral for his commentary on why diversity is not our strength. I'm sure you got a lot of people pissed off about that in the UK. Turns out opening your borders to millions of people, Will, who don't share your beliefs and culture, will ultimately destroy your country. Will, great to have you here on the show. Great to see you.
G'day, guys. Lovely to be with you. As an aside, as someone who is terrible at managing their credit card, American financing sounds fantastic. Wonderful sponsor. Fully endorse it.
Thank you. Even from the UK endorsing an American. I appreciate that. And see, that's the kind of shared values that we have, right? Americans, Brits, of course. We don't need to go back to 1775 and rub any kind of salt in the wound, but a lot of shared experiences, a lot of shared values. And we recently decided to close our borders because our country has been overrun and largely destroyed. And now we're all about the cleanup process of trying to get millions of illegal immigrants out of our country. We're still hunting down the massive ring of child sex trafficking operation in our country, but the UK seems to be fine with it. How much time do you think the UK has left? And I'm not asking you to be hyperbolic, but I mean asking you to be serious here. Like, how much time do you think your country has left?
Yeah, well, it depends what you mean by what the end would be. The Roman Empire declined over hundreds of years. But to answer your question, I guess more directly, the next election is in 2029. You have 5-year terms in the United Kingdom. And for many people here, it does feel like a make or break moment. Because if you have economic problems, and make no mistake, the UK is in a dire economic situation with low growth, with high levels of debt, all that sort of stuff, which many Western countries are facing. But another government can come in and change tax policies. They can change financial regulation policies, all that sort of stuff. Demographic change is almost impossible to reverse. Once people come into the country, particularly once they become citizens, it's very hard to change that. And what you've seen in 2 generations is enormous demographic change, which has led to a point where the United Kingdom now is really just a series of cultural and ethnic ghettos, in which many of those cultural and ethnic ghettos are governed by the norms of the countries from which those peoples have come from. And this isn't the 1950s and 1960s type of multiculturalism, where you have the best Greek restaurants plus British values, which is fine. This is coming from countries like Somalia and Eritrea and Afghanistan and parts of the world who do not have compatible values with a country like the UK or the US or my home country of Australia. They don't share the same values towards women, towards minority groups, thinking about the separation between church and state. And as a result of that, we now have a point where sectarian violence is increasing on the streets, and you have a country which is culturally and socially fractured. This is a very worrying time for the United Kingdom, Clayton.
So I guess cancel elections. That's the next strategy, because you don't like how the Reform Party. So what do they dislike about Nigel Farage's Reform Party and those aligned with him? And is he fully out in front on trying to close the borders?
Yeah, so the cancelling elections thing, there's some, administrative trickery going on there. The bigger thing, I think, is the cancellation of speech. And I am so insanely jealous of your First Amendment rights, because I think really what the attempt from the governments, and this, by the way, was the governments from the Conservative side, so the equivalent of the Republicans, as well as the Labor Party, the equivalent of the Democrats over the last 15 years, has been to slowly cram or to slowly stop what you can say in public. So, for example, there are these things called non-crime hate incidents, where you can be reported to the police if you cause offence, which is subjective, and as a result of that, that is logged on your record even if it is not a crime. I've heard of stories of a schoolgirl, for example, who said another schoolgirl smelt like fish and had a non-crime hate incident that was recorded against her. Stupid stuff like this happens every day. There are 30 arrests each day in the United Kingdom for things that are said online. It is extraordinary the amount of policing that's happening for what is being said. And the worst part about it is the incumbent Labor government are going to be trying to clamp down particularly on what you can say about the religion of Islam. There is talk of what they're calling Islamophobia or Muslim hate speech laws, which are being tabled, which will make it harder and harder to raise legitimate questions about a religion. And as someone in the United States would know, of course you should be able to raise legitimate questions about any religion because it is a choice that someone makes.
I've been thinking a lot about the U.S. Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War recently. Just been sort of knee deep in it again. One of my favorite subjects. And I think when I look at some of the grievances that the U.S. colonists had written in the Declaration of Independence, throwing off the shackles of this oppressive government, but specifically calling out things as it related to the king, that judges, the people in the judiciary were dependent on the king's will. So I see a lot of parallels to what's happening right now with these protests in England. People, they're almost having a kind of an American experience. They're saying we are sick and tired of the violence against our own citizenry. We're tired of the judiciary being in the pockets of these politicians, really not like almost like an independent judiciary at all. When these people get arrested, they're given favorable treatment in your country. These illegal immigrants. I mean, it's really horrible. Young Britons getting attacked in parks, and the judiciary is coming down on the sides of these horrible, violent criminals.
Yeah. There was an awful example the other day where, when I say the other day, 6 odd months ago, where someone burnt a Quran in front of a mosque. Now, I'm not endorsing burning a Quran. I think you should have the right to do it legally. But a Muslim man came out with a knife and then attempted to stab this man who was burning the Quran. And basically what we saw was, and thankfully this was overturned on appeal, but the man who burnt the Quran was both in more danger and was treated more harshly by the media and had to go through more legal problems than the man who actually attempted physical violence against that person. Physical violence is now treated almost as being a more serious threat than words in this country. It is absolutely extraordinary. And unfortunately, we don't have those old defenders of free speech, or as many as we should, to be able to say, look, even if someone says something that's hateful or bigoted, it is still on balance better to have that out in public, to have that debate, because otherwise you do have authoritarian governments who tell you what you can and cannot say. And as we both know, over the last 10 years in the US and the UK, that's been this woke progressive orthodoxy. And thankfully for you guys, Donald Trump has done a lot to address that, but there hasn't been that revolutionary figure in the UK to have that same style of redress.
I was going to ask you, who can you guys rally around? Is there anybody right now that you can rally around to say we want freedom, we want our liberty, we don't want you just coming into our houses because of a social media post, we don't want you siding with illegal immigrants, we don't want you keeping the borders wide open? It sounds like you guys are at a revolutionary moment right now.
Yeah, reform is obviously the closest to what you would want, and that's why they're well out in the polls, which is an extraordinary thing. Imagine in the US if a party that wasn't the Republicans or the Democrats suddenly jumped out to a 10-point lead in the polls. It's amazing to see what they've done. And Farage is at the moment the most likely to win. But here's the problem that they're going to face, and it's a really interesting parallel for all of our American viewers and listeners. The challenge is it could very well be Trump term one, as in you have all the ideas there, you have the policies there, but the blob, the administrative state, which is so ideologically captured, will push back and push back and push back. And as a result of that, not much gets done. And the fear that I have is that we don't have a Stephen Miller type character who's spent 4 or 5 years drafting, thinking deeply about how you deconstruct that state. And I know people who have worked across both Whitehall, so the blob in the UK, as well as in DC, and they will tell you that the blob in the UK is 10 times worse than the Administrative State in Washington. So the problem that someone like Farage will have if he wins in 29 is, even if he says we're going to shut the borders, even if he says we're going to go to net negative migration, which means more people leaving than coming, even if he says we're going to return to British values, you're going to have everyone from the educational institutions to the administrative parts of government to the media, everyone pushing against that. So we need our Stephen Miller. We need our person who understands how that works and can actually drive change. My fear is at the moment, we don't have that.
I mean, I can't wrap my head around, because if the United States had continued down this path for another 4 years, we wouldn't have a country. And you've got another 4 years to wait for this general election. What do you think is going to happen in the meantime? Because there's no move at all. I mean, the borders are, I mean, Keir Starmer has paid lip service to it, but has there been any movement at all to try to close the borders and stop this flood of migration into your country?
So token measures, basically, but the amount of people coming in per day dwarfs the amount that are being deported. But I will say as well that it is the illegal migration problem is far less significant than legal migration, in that for the last 15 to 20 years, you've had people coming from places like Pakistan, like Africa, parts of the Middle East that don't share the same values. Cheap, low-skilled labour. Again, the closest equivalent would be, cheap, low-skilled labour coming in from Mexico into the US. That has contributed to the problems that the UK have had. Now, look, I say this as an immigrant to the UK. If you haven't noticed the very rough Australian accent, I'm initially from Australia. But guess what? Australia, the UK, the US, we share Western liberal values. And that's the type of good immigration that we should all be after. The problem is that the UK has let in millions of people who don't share their values, who despise their history, and as a result of that are threats. And let's just cover off the elephant in the room. The big change has been the massive influx of immigration from Islamic countries over the last 15 or 20 years. That doesn't mean that every Islamic person is a bad person or is violent or dangerous or whatever. But what it does mean is that at scale, Islamic culture is not compatible with Western liberal democracy. And that's a fact. Out of the 50-odd Islamic countries in the world, I think 47 of them aren't democracies. I think the 3 that actually are pretty dodgy democracies. And 40 of them are authoritarian hellholes. And the problem is we are getting to a point in the UK where, at least in certain parts of the country, you are getting enough scale to win local elections. You're getting enough scale to start influencing the politics, which is why you are now having debates in the UK Parliament about things like first cousin marriage, about things like Sharia law, about things that are completely anathema to how we would think about how a Western liberal democracy should operate. And so really you're right to mention the illegal immigration problem, but it is legal immigration from countries that don't share our values that will define the future of this country.
No, that's powerful. And thank you for that. I mean, entire neighborhoods being completely altered, mosques, call to prayer early in the morning. We see this in Dearborn, Michigan as well. Almost every sign is now, it's not in English anymore. You have city councils, you have local elections now with Islamic politicians who are winning these local elections, and this is how it starts.
Yeah, that's right. And remind me, it's not Dearborn, which is the one where there's the Somali guy who is now a favourite to be the mayor.
New York City?
No, that's Mamdani, and that's his whole separate kettle of fish. But the issue is that these sorts of sectarian communities arise really quickly, and very quickly you don't have that binding thread that brings everyone together to say we are one country. And the really interesting example that's come out recently is a campaign called the Raise the Flag campaign. Now, American viewers are going to find this bizarre. I lived in New York for 3 years. I'm aware of how Americans are patriotic and take pride in their flag. The UK have been worried about a lot of the things that I've mentioned to you, mass migration and a change in the culture. And so you've seen, mainly in working class areas, flags, it's a good example, flags being put up on lampposts, on bridges everywhere across the country. Now, Americans would go, "You beauty, fantastic. You know, this is a great demonstration of patriotism." The Brits traditionally aren't like that. They are a bit more reserved and a bit more quiet, which shows the level of passion from so many people. But now there's this culture war where you've got lefties that are going across the country and ripping down flags because they're saying that the Union Jack or the Cross of St. George are signs of violence and aggression towards minority groups. They're saying that they're oppressive. They're saying in some cases they're fascist. Now, if you can't rally around your country's flag, what can you rally around? It is like some people saying the Pledge of Allegiance is threatening to new minority groups in the US. This is the level of cultural fracture in the UK right now. And it shows why the multicultural project, which the UK has embraced, Australia has embraced, to an extent the US has embraced, but I think the US has a stronger identity, so it can actually make it work a bit better. But it shows why the multicultural project has utterly failed.
Oh, well said. Absolutely. It's been a failure, and it's one step away from collapse as a result. Will, thank you so much for staying up late with us there in the UK. We really appreciate it. I loved your perspective. I love your stance on diversity, and I wanted to have you on the show. So thank you so much. And where can people find more of your work?
Thank you, guys. Yeah, host of the Saturday 5 on GB News, which is the equivalent of Fox's The Five. If you can't access that, my podcast is Fire at Will. Access it on YouTube, and also just search Will Kingston on X. But an absolute pleasure to be with you guys, and keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you, Will. Great to see you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Well said. All right. Well, I'll take some of your super chats here in a second. And it's really troubling. I mean, just when we were in London not that long ago, and we were just walking down the street, I mean, there's like every store was just like filled with like gay sex stuff right in the window. Like your kids, it's like, and you have to explain, like my kids are like, "What is this stuff?" I'm like, don't even ask. We're just going to move more quickly. We're going to walk past it as much as we can. It's a city in ruins. And it's really deeply disturbing. So they've got till 2029 for a general election. I'm afraid they won't be around until then. All right. Well, we've got take some of your super chats here in a second. Yes, people in the Agyar in the chat says, "Yeah, gross." Imagine that. You're just walking down the street and you're like, have to see that stuff in windows with your little kids. It's unbelievable. All right. But first, I'm going to tell you about our friends over at Perplexity.ai, because Comet is a new AI-powered web browser from Perplexity. And you can check it out by just going to Perplexity, that's pplx.ai/redacted. It can navigate around the web like a human can, clicking, typing, searching, scrolling, doing all the things that you would do, but to get what you need done so you can actually do more. Like all of that busy work, like let's say you're putting together, I don't know, like a daily newsletter or something like that. And you have to visit like 5 or 6 different websites, and you have to get this source of what is this price of this thing or whatever. You can actually set it up so that Perplexity can do, in their new web browser, Comet can do all of that for you. So putting together different data things like this, I mean, you could have it if it's, if you don't run a business, it could help you prep for your day, send a message by email, schedule something for you, search for that next vacation, and even book some restaurants. I can search and analyze comments like under a post that you've made if you want to have it analyze things like that, give you a report when you wake up in the morning, like, hey, go through my YouTube channel and pull up all of our YouTube comments and put together a comprehensive report. You could do all of that. But, if you own a business, you could do all sorts of other things too inside Comet, whether it's send money, pay bills, do different things for your business. So you can try it out. I just encourage you to just give it a shot and see if it works for you by going to pplx.ai/redacted and download the new AI web browser called Comet today. And plus, if you do it, you'll also get a month of Rumble Premium for free. That's right. You can just download it and get a month of Rumble Premium for free. And let your web browser do the work for you. Plus, right now, when you download the Comet, you get that month of Rumble Premium for free. So go to pplx.ai/redacted and take back your time online. All right. Any super chats we want to get to here, guys? Thoughts? So how's the internet outage? How many of you guys have been dealing with this crazy internet outage today with Amazon Web Services? I've had people texting, they're like, hey, is like the internet down? You realize like how much of the internet is run by Amazon Web Services? It's crazy.
We had to hack this show together today because a lot of our pipelines were disconnected. So we had to, like David had to literally physically go to the studio to put in assets while I talked to him. Yep, yeah. I was talking to him on the phone, describing the images. Okay, do you see the image that looks like this? Yeah, put that one next. Okay, do you see it? That's how we put the show together today.
Yeah, because when Natalie and I are writing the show all morning and putting all the assets, we've got this soundbite, we've got that full screen image, like all of these things, trying to put it together. But then when Amazon Web Services down, like using a service like Parsec or these other things that you rely on that are using Amazon Web Services as a back end, then you're out of luck. It's amazing. Remember the CrowdStrike disaster and now Amazon Web Services? You realize like how much you couldn't go to the bank. You couldn't get your money out when the CrowdStrike thing happened. Oh, your Wells Fargo? Sorry. Bank of America? Sorry, you can't get your money out. That's how reliable.
Well, at least Zoom worked today because the last time it happened, Zoom wouldn't work for us, so we couldn't even bring guests in. We had to like hobble that together.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, thankfully we made it through. So just hoping. Yeah, people are saying it was affected. Steviak in our chat says it was just affected as Ring cameras, Ring doorbells. Yeah, so a lot of people. Yeah, Amazon Web Services runs your Ring doorbell server. So, Yeah,
even Reddit. I think I sent you that screenshot. Reddit even told me to take a break. It's just like we're having difficulties. Take a break. I was like, okay, thanks, Reddit.
Yeah. Go Blue Forever says that's why banking must not be digital. I mean, gone are those days. They want to move us away from cash, and the European Union certainly wants to move you away from cash. So, and think about, the banks don't have any real money in their banks anyway. If you want to go and like take $10,000 out of your business account or something like that, they'll laugh at you, tell you to come back another day because they're going to have to somehow go and get that cash and actually move it to that bank. They don't even have it there. Crypto Linux guy says, LOL suckers using Amazon services. Yeah, but
you realize really all that's available. Like you either have Amazon or you have Google. You really don't have private servers. I mean, even if you are with a private server company, chances are those are on Amazon and Google.
We could use Hillary's private servers. Maybe she'll. Fortunately, we have our own server for our show. That's not on Amazon, right? I don't think.
No, it is. Yeah, it is.
Great.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The only way we could do it would be if we actually put our own servers in the studio. But then if the internet ever went down, things would be offline. But it's still like you just really don't want to do that because if there's a fire or something, you lose everything.
Well, yeah, and our servers didn't go down. My ability to connect to it did. So it was like all of the different stations were running, like the studio was running, our server was running. I just couldn't connect to anything.
Well, see, and the benefit to our server, the way we have it set up, is that it's not just in the U.S. So if anything happens in the U.S., Amazon services go down, we use another server that's not in the U.S. So we have a backup server that's not. But if it went down globally, Amazon, then it would affect us.
So it took down, today's outage took down Venmo, Snapchat, Alexa, Reddit, just to name a few, Parsec, but a lot of infrastructure. Apparently it was in Northern Virginia where this was happening. It was, when you see these things, you always wonder like, oh, is this somehow related to, what's going on with China right now and this massive summit that's coming up ahead of that? The cyber warfare, or was it just some other issue? And they'll say that it wasn't a cyber attack. Who knows exactly? But they were immediately engaged, AWS says, with engineers designed to actively work on both mitigating the issue and fixing steps so that it doesn't happen again.
It doesn't happen again. How many times has that happened? Like.
Deekish Ball says Catherine Austin Fitts is promoting 60 days of cash only. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Catherine Austin Fitts, and I certainly make sure that we have cash on hand, make sure that it's, in a safe and taken care of, to have cash ready to go, because if something's to happen, how are you going to pay for anything if you can't get access to your banks? And if there's like a run on these banks too. Cashless means bartering will flourish. Well, you remember after the fall of the Soviet Union, like cash was useless. I shouldn't say useless, but the Russian currency, the Soviet currency, was, for all intents and purposes, worthless. So the things that became real commodities, as Catherine Austin Fitts likes to point out, were like vodka. Vodka became like the most powerful. Yeah, I'm going to pay you with vodka.
Like if I
don't want your cash.
Get my money, I'm just going to get drunk.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing though. Like for any survival kit, like if you're putting together like a long-term survival kit, like storing food and water and stuff like that, literally storing those little airplane bottles of liquor and even cigarettes, because those will be things that will, like, for whatever reason, vices become currency. But that's like, it's just how it's going to be.
Noel says cash is useless right now in the United States and it's worthless. Well, the U.S. dollar is in total decline for sure, but it's very difficult to use cash in the U.S. Most people, it's cashless now. It's
well. When I was in Thailand,
Threshold says cashless currency equals dominoes waiting to fall.
When I was in Thailand, I couldn't use cash at certain Starbucks. Like it was only digital.
Yeah. Yeah, they do not want you to use cash. Absolutely. They do not want you to transact in cash. And, some people saying small denomination or small amounts of silver. I think, looking at the American Revolution, as you know, currency was being counterfeited left and right. It was mostly useless. And the American colonists were like, and a lot of storekeeps and stuff like that said, we're not accepting royal money anymore. If it's got the king's image on it, I will not accept it. So silver became very important. And when like General Washington wanted to pay spies and things like that, or give people like a big bonus and things like that, he wanted to make sure he had silver. Even Robert Morris sent him like bags of silver to be able to make payments. So I think having precious metals on hand for sure is key, and lead and brass, as somebody in our chat says. Gold is already over $4,000 an ounce. Someone in our chat just says gold might top 400. It hit 4,300. It's insane. Digital currency does not have "In God We Trust" on it, like it does on U.S. cash.
Neither did the U.S. dollar until the 50s.
Right. I always use cash. Deacon's Ball says, I always use cash unless I'm buying something online. Yeah, I wonder, is there a way that you could like pay for things online with like a cash equivalency? I mean, I guess that's where the idea of a stable coin comes in, and this is how they're going to try to get you. This is how they're going to try to get you with this stable coin.
Some of the Spotify stores, if you turn it on through Stripe, you can actually pay with a check still. That's about the closest thing I think to cash.
Yeah, but is there like a way, like sort of cash equivalency, like where you would, like, I want to pay for this online thing, but I'm going to go to a kiosk. Here's my order number. I'll type in my order number, and I'm going to slide in a bunch of cash into the machine. Like an Amazon kiosk.
I would say like Cash App's probably like the closest thing to that, but I don't
know. Silver spot price right now, $52. And I don't think that's still, gold is at $43.74 right now. Thank you, WS84. This is unbelievable. I mean, we are in a moment we have never seen before. So you guys are living through history right now. And I think the big story is all these central banks buying up as much gold as they can. I just did a video yesterday talking about China. And China's gold supply in their central banks is being underestimated by a factor of probably 10. And it's largely one of the biggest stories in finance right now. These central banks buying up as much gold as they can to tie their currency to gold. And the United States is nearing $38 trillion in fake money debt, not tied to gold at all. So the U.S. is in real trouble financially. Lady in the Lake says, I never use self-checkout. I hate self-checkout. I despise it. Crypto Linux guy says Square owns Cash App. I remember I interviewed Jack Dorsey right when he was launching Square. Was it called Square at the time, or was it called Square Up or something? Let's check the YouTube stream here if there's any other. Brad Gilbert, thank you for your $5 Canadian super chat. Says Butler was a false flag. First shots came from the forest down the bleachers. The AP CIA photo cropped the bullet out. It's AI generated. No scar. Smarten up. Basically saying Trump was not shot.
Here's a Warrington Boone talking about
Wilford Brimley wannabe. Thank you for that super chat as well. And Snowy says, happy 15th wedding anniversary to Clayton and Natalie. Thank you so much. She had to go pick up the kids. She had to step out here because it's after school time here in the Rocky Mountains. We're getting that big blast of that art. It's like really a cold front that just came through from Wyoming right now. So it's about to get cold.
When I was on my way over there, like I literally had to pull the car to the left a little bit. The wind, like through those open plains on the way there where there's nothing blocking the wind. It was like pushing my car.
Yeah, I had some Halloween stuff outside, like blew away. So, yeah, self-checkout at Costco is great. Runner's High says. You know what I do like at Sam's Club is the self-checkout. Because you go through, and as you're going through, you just scan everything, and then you just walk right out. Like it's like you pay, scans it, you have everything in your shop, and you just walk right out. And it's got these weird big, things that scan your whole cart, and they know if you put in some extra stuff that you didn't pay for. It's kind of crazy how that technology works, but I don't mind that one. Arcane Electric. Yeah, we've been back for years now. It was a great adventure. I encourage, we lived in Europe for a while, and I encourage all Americans to go and do that at some point if they can, because then you realize at the heart of it, like we were just talking with Will Kingston, especially Europe, which is losing their freedoms, losing their ability to transact, losing their civil liberties, losing their personal freedoms, losing their ability to free speech, all of it. It really gives you an incredible perspective. And, a lot of our military veterans here who watch our show, who know they've spent time overseas, I'm sure you're happy to come back because you realize there's nothing like our First Amendment.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Grim is our veteran, our resident veteran.
I want to go back. Let me go back to that checkout thing you were talking about just a second ago. Do you remember that Visa commercial a while back where you had this shifty looking dude walking around the store shoving things in his pockets, and then he went out the door and the security guard standing there, and the security guard walks up to him like he's going to get rough with him, and turns around and then grabs the receipt, right, and hands it to him, and he remember that?
Yeah.
We are really close to that kind of checkout.
Well, I think a lot of stores already not Target. Apple, like Apple stores have that, where you scan it out yourself and you just walk out of the store.
Right.
Scan it out and pay for it yourself.
Sam's does have that because we had that on the app ourselves. But yeah.
But the thing is, this is why we can't. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing and you just want the easier experience and you don't want to have to deal with waiting in line and you just want to leave, that's great. So we can't have nice things though, because you see these cities now having to put in a lot of liberal cities having to put things behind like glass, behind plastic. You got to go ask a Target employee to unlock something so you can buy deodorant now. So I'm sure it's in lower crime areas,
There was a store I believe it was in L.A., but when they passed the laws in California that basically anything other than grand larceny, they wouldn't prosecute. So the guy made everything in his store worth exactly how much it would be if you stole it. It would be grand larceny, and then he gave you, I think it was something like everything in the store was like $900, and then he would give you a $900 discount after you bought it, and so that anything that was stolen would be grand larceny.
Yeah. We can't have nice things anymore. We cannot. That was Grim. People were asking, like, who is that guy? That's Grim. He's on our team here. He does all of our graphics, like every graphic that you see on the screen, like all of that. He does all of our graphics, all of our shirt designs, and everything in our store, and so much more, and so much more. Like if you see our thumbnails and everything for our videos, that's what Grim does. All right, I think that's going to do it for the show today. Yeah, it is my anniversary, so I'm going to go hang out with my wife a little bit. But thank you guys so much for
happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys for subscribing. If you're not already subscribers here, follow us on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube. It's totally free, whether you're watching us on X or other places. We really appreciate it as we try to seek the truth. We have no agenda here. We're not paid for by big investors, by big pharma, by the defense industry, the government. So we are supported by you and the few sponsors we have here on the show every day. So thank you guys so much for your memberships and being a part of this great community. And we'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time, everyone. Have a great night.